Welcome back to the Positive Gains podcast. Today, my special guest is Jock Mckissic. Jock is a former athlete from Clemson University who's now an actor. You've probably seen him in a lot of big things, but I know he's got a lot more up his sleeve. Jock, how are you, man?
I'm blessed, man. How you doing, brother?
Doing very well. Thank you for being on today.
Of course, man. Thank you for having me.
So I see you're already spotting or sporting the Clemson University gear. Uh,
Yeah, I got so much, bro. I got so much, so I probably wear it like 3-4 times a week. Yeah. Especially
uh,
'cause I work out a lot, so I like to be comfortable.
okay.
Yeah,
No, I understand that. I get that.
yeah, for sure.
Before we hit Clemson and all the good stuff, man, how about early life? What was early life like for Jock, and before football and any of the big things that you were doing?
Uh, Grew up in Opelika, Alabama, small town near Auburn University, Tuskegee, Montgomery, kind of that area. It's about 15, 20 minutes from the Georgia state line as well. So it's on the east side of Alabama. Spent half of my time in a small town, Opelika, and half of my time in Salem, not Selma, Salem, is where my grandmother lives, and she lives on a farm. So I spent half of my time like on the farm, and the other half, for school in the city. So my childhood was unique compared to like my friends because most of my friends were in the city all the time. So, when I would be in the country, I would have to feed like the cows and the chickens and, pick up pecans and pears, et cetera, et cetera. Like actually do like labor. And it taught me, grit, hard work, responsibility. Taught me all of that discipline at a very early age when most of my friends were just, you know, riding their bikes or playing Sega. You know what I'm saying? So that was my childhood. Come from a very loving family. I was raised majority of the time by a single mom. So yeah, it's not that different from a lot of people, I'm sure. Um, the only difference I would say is I knew early on that I wanted to act. But coming from a background such as rural Alabama, that's not really a reality to most people. So um, yeah, that's pretty much it.
So I mean, you had the country living, and then you had the other side, in the city, like you were saying for a little bit. But
Yeah,
predominantly country, learning the trade, learning, like you said, the discipline, the hard work.
uh,
Um, so maybe that's what kind of set the um, not the background, but kind of set your footing as
mhm.
far as being responsible and things like that.
Oh, for sure. Um, I mean, I would say I was still a kid, so I did kid stuff. I made mistakes like everybody else, but the difference was I knew what discipline looked like. I knew what hard work looked like, and I was accustomed to it. So it kind of carried over into every other phase of my life, such as sports, school, etc. Just because everything was structured. We woke up at sunrise. In the summer when we would stay at my grandmother's, you wake up at sunrise, you wash your face, you eat breakfast, you go out and you tend to the animals. So structure was something that became a part of my life super early, like 6, 7 years old. So yeah.
So imagine getting into high school, man. You're talking about structure, um, football, again, structured grades, structure. There's structure everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And so you have that I won't say the mindset, but the upbringing. I imagine again helped you. So what was high school like? Because you said a small town in Alabama, and acting's not really a thing that's heard of there. I
Yeah.
imagine football is probably what runs that area, right?
Football is king for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, I would say the South in general, especially Alabama. But you have some nooks and crannies where they love their basketball team or whatever. My basketball team was decent, but football was king. You know, I didn't play football until I got to high school. I was a hooper. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Before that, so I started playing football in the ninth grade, and simultaneously, I also did theater, and I did what they call show choir. Show choir is not very popular nationwide, but basically is you are singing, but you're also dancing and performing. Kind of, if I had to compare it to something, I would say like Broadway. It's like a Broadway show, a Broadway musical. So I did that along with theater. Started playing football, and for me, football was fun, but it was more so about the camaraderie
Mm.
initially. Like I like hanging out with my friends, working hard, the payoff of working hard, the reward, etc. That was more so what drove me on the field. Um, I was extremely good, but I didn't really know how good I was as a freshman. Um, in the ninth grade, I think we only played 6 games, and I had like 14 sacks.
Wow.
Yeah, I also played tight end, did pretty good at tight end. But to me, it was I was just doing my job, and the coaches were, raving about how good I was, and I had to keep playing because I was considering not playing once I got to the 10th grade, and they kind of talked me into it. So yeah.
Now, you didn't want to play. Was it because you wanted to kind of focus more on theater, and you just, like you said, football was just kind of like, whatever,
I think it was more so focused on basketball.
on basketball?
Yeah, because basketball was my first love. I liked football, I always did, but I loved basketball initially. Um, I think the roles have reversed now. I think I love football more just because of the discipline and the life lessons that football teaches. But yeah, I was considering not playing my sophomore year to focus on basketball, and they kind of talked me into doing it. So yeah.
And then you progress. I'm sure a lot of colleges were after you. You chose Clemson, but I'm curious to know, were there other offers that you considered? Why Clemson,
Mhm.
and just that process?
Yeah, so I had 26 offers, I think. Yeah, I think 26 offers in football and like 11 in basketball, like very small colleges in basketball. I was clearly better at football. Um, my final five was Clemson, obviously, Alabama, um, Auburn, NC State, and UAB.
Okay.
Uh, UAB was in there because the coach who recruited me, I had like so much respect for him. He was like a phenomenal guy. And he, excuse me, he gave me so much life advice as a young man about like the transition from high school to college and just becoming a man. He gave me so much advice. So I promised him I would take an official visit and like seriously consider the school. So I did that. Um, then I ended up canceling my visit to Auburn and going on a visit to Southern Miss because they told me they would let me play football and basketball.
Ah,
So I went on a visit there, to kind of,
see what's up.
consider, yeah, to consider that, to see, put my foot in the water to see if it was something I really wanted to do. But after all of the meetings and stuff, I was like, nah, I don't think I want to be a dual sport athlete in college. That's too much work. Yeah, so it really was between Alabama, Clemson, and NC State. Um, with the NC State, the only thing that rubbed me the wrong way about them is at the time they had um, defensive end that went number 1 overall, Mario Williams, and
Houston, right?
Excuse me. Yeah.
Okay.
Went number 1 to Houston, and they had Manny Lawson on the other side. Mario was number 9, and I think Manny was number 7, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
But that was kind of like their thing. They recruited me as a DN, so their thing was like single-digit numbers. And they were like, you got to come here. So when I went on my visit, like back then you put on a jersey and you run out on the field. It would be like your high school number or whatever. And my number has been 50 my whole life.
Right.
So in my jersey, in my locker, they had the number 50 jersey. And beside it, they had a number 2 jersey. So I was like, well, they got somebody else's jersey in my locker. And they were like, nah, that's yours, man. It's like, Mario and them boys, they want you to wear number 2 if you come. I'm like, nah, I want number 50. So they're like, all right, well, you can put 50 on right now, boy. You run out of the tunnel, put on number 2. So I was like, nah. So they kind of started rubbing me the wrong way there. Outside of that, it was cool. I still seriously considered it. And then on signing day, I didn't sign because I couldn't decide between Clemson and Alabama. So I wanted to weigh my options and really like see what would be the best situation, right? So on signing day, Alabama signed 7 defensive linemen or something like that. And Clemson signed 4. So I was like, okay, Clemson signed 4. And then after like just considering how I actually really felt about my experiences when I went on my official visits, I had to be honest with myself. Like I just loved Clemson more. I felt more welcomed. I felt more accepted amongst the players. The community felt more welcoming to me as opposed to Tuscaloosa. So yeah, man, I prayed about it, and I ended up going to Clemson. And clearly, I don't regret it. So yeah.
Was there any backlash picking Clemson over Bama? I know because Bama was probably I don't know if they were a year into the Saban era or 2 years. I really
They
don't
were.
remember.
This was the year before Saban.
The year before. Okay.
Yeah, this was the year before. So I got some backlash from like people in Alabama that I knew personally that knew I was considering Alabama seriously. They weren't happy. I'm saying they were upset. But I actually got the most backlash from Auburn University
Oh.
because once I canceled my official visit there, I started to get some backlash from them then. And then once I officially signed with Clemson, I got a lot of backlash. And there was like an article like McKissic makes mistake, or I'm saying, like question mark. And it was all about why Auburn would have been a great fit. And so prior to my senior year, every Division I athlete from my high school went to Auburn for like 6 years, something
Ooh.
crazy like that. So it was kind of just like the expected.
Right.
Yeah, so like I think we had 8 or 9 guys to go play Division I. Nobody went to Auburn, so it was kind of like devastation for them and their fan base.
And
Yeah.
then the rest of Clemson for you, how did that career go?
It went well, man. I mean, it had its ups and downs, but overall, it was a phenomenal experience. Um, I started 2 years defensive tackle. Phenomenal education. Of course, my teammates and I were very close. I still have relationships with, majority of those guys now. I have a group text with, I think like 16 to 17 guys. We talk every single day.
Wow.
So yeah, like the foundation that I built at Clemson, like, my house is still standing on it. So, my experience there was dope.
And being there, you were still thinking theater, right? Improv.
Yeah.
and I believe you participated in improv while you were attending, right?
Yeah. So I wanted to major in theater, but majority of the theater classes start at 2:30 p.m. or 2 p.m. or something like that. And at 2 p.m., of course, I would be in practice. So my academic advisor wouldn't let me choose, theater to major in for obvious reasons.
Mhm.
So I ended up, if it was all said and done, I double majored in sociology and communications.
Nice.
And the theater program had an improv team on campus at the time. And they would have like improv nights, just random every, I think like once a month or something. And I would always just go and support. And then I started asking like, "Hey, I want to be a part of it." So they started bringing me up to do like little stuff in between the shows and stuff. So yeah, it was always on my mind. You know what I'm saying? I was always preparing for it. I just never really told anybody like, "Oh, I'm gonna be an actor." Past the initial time when I first said it when I was 6.
Did you ever get like jokes from people? Because you're a large dude, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
could, if somebody says something to you, obviously you can, turn around and just look at them. If they try to crack a joke
Any
about
jokes
theater, but
about
did you get backlash from people?
um in high school, people when I would do like plays or stuff with the theater department, or I would do like the show choir stuff. Um, People would like make little slick jokes, but it was more so like uh, they they didn't really want to like pick at me because they were kind of maybe afraid,
Hmm.
but it was kind of like I don't understand it. So you know how kids are; if they don't understand it, they pick at it, right? I got that for a bit, but I was always the kid who never really gave, you know, two cares about peer pressure or someone else's perspective. I was always the kid that would sit down at the table with the loner kids, what I'm
Right.
saying, and talk to them, or you know, um, I was never a trend follower. I was a trend setter. So after a while, it became like oh, Jock does X, Y, and Z, and people were actually starting to come and support just because I was like a known athlete, a popular person in school, and I was choosing to do all these things that weren't the norm for a black boy from my side of town. So it became more of a kind of like a mystique thing for people, you know, and
Right.
I just left it at that. I never said like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be an actor," so that's why I'm doing these things. I just did it.
Now, how did you make the transition from, being done with football into trying to do acting full time?
Yeah. So after college, after the NFL didn't work out, I played arena ball for a year. Broke all kind of records for a defensive lineman. I got to work out with the New York Giants. They didn't sign me. Then I signed with an arena team in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa Talons. My agent at the time got me an invite to Saskatchewan's spring camp, which is Saskatchewan Roughriders is a CFL team.
Canada?
Yeah, so I went to spring training with them, worked out with them, everything went well. Um, then I went to Atlanta, started training, just waiting on the season to start for CFL. And while I was there, I met a guy who was a sports coordinator for like any sports movie you can name, probably. Name a sports movie, like your favorite sports movie.
Probably remember the Titans.
Boom. Remember the Titans. He worked on that. So basically, what he does, he's a sports director. Basically, what he does is for sports films, TV shows, he casts all of the players. He coordinates. It's really choreography. Choreographs the plays, choreographs like the stunts, the tackles, or the shots, the dunks, or whatever, just depending on the sport. And he directs it. You know what I'm saying? Like the director, when it gets to the sports stuff, they step aside and they let him do it. So
Okay.
Mark Ellis. So I met him. He was working on the TV show at the time called Necessary Roughness on USA, and he invited me to be one of the players as like a feature extra. You know, I didn't talk or anything, but I was like doing the stunts. You know, I was like in the locker room in the background or whatever. So I did that, and while I was on set, a lot of people like the directors, um, you know, assistant directors, just some of the actors, they were like, "Man, like we think you can really be good at this." I'm like, I'm not even saying anything. I'm an extra. I'm a background. They're like, "Nah, like you know, it's not about always talking. We can just tell by your essence. You know, you probably will be good at this." So I'm like, "Yeah, you know, when I get done playing ball, I'm gonna act." So they were like, "Okay, well, where you playing ball at?" You know, and then that story, that 10-minute story started. So basically, the CFL team reached out and told us that they weren't gonna sign me and bring me in for the season. And I decided to sign with another arena team. I went to Cleveland to play for the Cleveland Gladiators, and something happened with like my paperwork, my transition. I was only there for like a month or two, and I ended up just retiring and moving back to Atlanta. And moving to Atlanta because I'm from Alabama, and of course I was at Clemson prior to that. So I moved to Atlanta. That's how I started my acting journey. I enrolled in some acting classes. Started auditioning for like community plays, church plays in Atlanta. Um, you know, independent films there. Started writing my own stuff, web
Wow.
series, short films, and yeah, that's I kind of just forced my will into the acting world. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened.
What was more difficult for you? Was it playing football and getting up every morning, the pads, or was it something completely different and foreign to you as far as theater and being on set and different things like that?
Hmm. Um, physically, football, of course. Um, acting is long hours. 12 to 16 hour days. A lot of people complain about that. I don't really care. You know, I'm doing what I love. Like, sure, we can stay all night. I don't care. Football, waking up at 4:45 a.m. to go train and then go to practice and then go to lunch and then come back and go to practice. Like it was just brutally tough, physically and mentally. Um, I would say emotionally, acting is probably tougher than football because with football, for the most part, you know, I was talented. I was good at it. You get to college, everybody's good, but if you work hard, you'll play, So there's kind of like a blueprint to follow, you know, and you'll get immediate result, not immediate, but you'll get results simultaneously. With acting, there's really no blueprint. You can, try different routes or different techniques or different things that other people have done and see if it works for you. It may not work. It may not. You just never know. And you're constantly being rejected. You audition, you might not hear anything from it. Just repeat it. This cycle just repeats itself over and over and over and over and over. So it's like emotionally that can be taxing, as opposed to football. Emotionally, it's like, oh, I lost this play, but I got another play. In 5 seconds. Let me win this next one. Um, with acting, you don't get a role. You don't even know when the next audition is coming. So um, acting is tougher in that way just the unknown.
And a lot of projects that you've been a part of. Can you name a few that maybe some people are familiar with?
Yeah. Law and Order SVU is the most popular one. I think probably everybody in America knows that one.
Yeah.
Probably have watched a few episodes at some point in time. I did that one. I was on the season finale of season 22 or 23 or something, the last season. Um, Queen of the South was a popular one on Netflix, USA. It's currently on Netflix. Mayor of Kingstown is a popular one that's on Paramount currently that comes out. The third season comes out June 2nd. Um, the most successful one, probably Your Honor,
Okay.
which was on Showtime with Bryan Cranston. I played his bailiff on that. That one broke a lot of records for CBS and Showtime, so that one was extremely successful. So yeah, those are a few.
How about a favorite project so far that you've been able to tackle?
All of them, bro. The next one is the favorite one. That's like I think honestly I'm asked that question a lot, and it's tough to like come up with one favorite. So I have favorite projects for different things, right?
Mm,
So like I did this show called The Quad on BET, and it was my favorite show for camaraderie because I was able to work with a lot of guys that I started acting with. I got two guys that I started acting with jobs because I was casted first. So I was on set with 3 to 4 people that were like my everyday peers. Every time we were on set together. So that was kind of like surreal. I did Greenleaf with Oprah. That's my favorite one, just for a full circle moment because
mm.
Oprah, her show. I watched her show, seen a couple of interviews, and was inspired as a kid. So just to work with her, in my acting career was kind of like a full circle moment. So that's a big one. Station 19 is my favorite performance this far because I was like one of the lead characters for that episode, and my character was like trapped in between two cars, and he was basically dying during the show. So it was a lot of taxing work acting wise, and I feel like I did a phenomenal job. So performance wise, that's my favorite. Um, um, I guess that's it. For now. I mean, I've met phenomenal people. You know, Mayor Kingstown cast is great. Yonner working with Bryan Cranston is dope. Queen of the South met one of my closest peers now, Alemi Ballard. He was on Queen of the South as well. So yeah, I mean, I've been blessed to work on some dope projects, and you know, I'm sure we'll talk about another one soon. So yeah.
And another, big blessing is, you said growing up, basketball, that was your first love, and
Yeah.
you got another series coming up where you play Glenn Big Baby Davis in Clipped on the Donald Sterling, I guess we'll call it saga. So, I mean, we can't talk a lot about it, but
Yeah.
how it's coming full circle that you get to play a basketball player. So I'm sure that was pretty cool, right?
Yeah, man. Um, and that's why I didn't mention it because I knew you would bring it up. Yeah, it was surreal, man. Because like um, I knew that I would act eventually, right? But like my childhood dream first, the thing that I wanted to do first was go to the NBA. and then I wanted to play in the NBA and start my acting career while playing, kind of like Shaq did. Shaq was my idol. That's
Okay.
yeah. So um, that dream never coming into fruition, getting a chance to do it on TV, and play somebody that I actually know and tell a story that a lot of people don't really know what all that story entails. They just know like, oh, the Clippers owner was racist and they banned him, but they don't know like the backstory because I didn't know a lot of this stuff that happened. So getting a chance to tell that story and simultaneously live out a childhood dream, I made it to the NBA. You know what I'm saying? Just in a different way. So
Right.
um, that cast is phenomenal, man. Like getting a chance to work with one of my favorite actors in Lawrence Fishburne, who plays Doc Rivers. He's now become like a mentor to me. So that was like a blessing in itself. Um, all the actors that I work with, my teammates, um, J.R. Funds, who a lot of people know from P Valley. He plays Chris Paul. Um, Sharonis, who's an actor that was on Insecure, he plays Matt Barnes. Darren Wesley plays Jamal Crawford. Um, Sheldon Bailey plays DeAndre Jordan. Charlie plays JJ Redick. Austin plays Blake Griffin. So yeah, man, it's loaded, man. It is absolutely loaded with talent. And then everybody knows the guy who plays Donald Sterling from Married with Children as
Right.
Al. Yeah, and he's phenomenal. Like he's such a great actor. I got a chance to like shadow the director on a couple episodes, and I got a chance to go and watch like his scenes. And man, the dude is he's cold blooded, man. I can't wait to see it on screen.
It'll be a good one.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one, man, for sure.
What about the best advice that you've been given so far?
Been given so much. Man, the best. Hmm, I think it changes. I think the best advice changes depending on where I am in my life. Um, I have all this advice in my head from all of my mentors, from Greg Allen Williams to Clifton Powell to
Oh,
Bryan Cranston to Lawrence Fishburne to like my peers that I've come up with who say clever stuff. I just have so much knowledge and advice that I've been blessed to receive from so many people. But in this moment, um, what's ringing true for me as the best advice is um, the the great actors who don't make it are the ones that quit before their big break. Um, and I think that applies to any craft. I don't think it's just acting. Like the great bloggers or vloggers, such as yourself doing the podcast, they don't make it, whatever the make it is on by their terms, because they give up before they get their big break. Um, because when you're doing whatever it is you're doing, in my case, acting, you can't really see down the road. You can kind of gauge where you're going just by where you are and like the traction that you've been getting, but you can't see what's next. So a lot of people get to a standstill and they just can't see they can't see any light at the end of the tunnel. So they give up. Um, but it's been tried and proven, tested and proven as well, that if you just keep going, eventually you'll get your break.
yeah.
And The beautiful thing about what we do, man, is everybody's goals and aspirations are different. You know, everybody doesn't want to be an A-lister. You know, some people just want to work and take care of their family. Everybody doesn't want to be a producer. Some people just want to act. You know, so that's a beautiful thing that also, gives me hope that there's room for everybody. So yeah, right now in this moment in my life, that advice rings true.
And that kind of leads into your own advice towards the general public, and you kind of gave it in a sense that don't quit.
Yeah.
Perfect your craft, research, study, figure out what's important to you.
Hmm.
um but for the other ones that might still not get that, what other advice would you give to maybe somebody that's similar like you? Maybe there's a kid that is real big in theater, but he doesn't know how to fully come out of it, because it seems like you use football as a way to, pay for your education, get out of that small town, learn different things, and then you still did theater. You still, did what you wanted. So, what would you tell a kid, similar to that?
Bloom where you plant it. Um, bloom where you plant it. Simple, you know, and basically it just simply means wherever you are in your life, wherever you are in your career, wherever you are on the age scale, you bloom there. Meaning you do the best that you can, and you shine brightly in that place where you are. So with acting, the beautiful thing about 2024 is, we have social media. We have TikTok, Instagram, we have YouTube, we have, Twitter, we have so many different platforms where you don't have to wait on anybody. You don't have to have a camera. You can use your phone and just record whatever and be creative. And it doesn't have to be elaborate or, this beautiful project to like display your talent.
Mhm.
And so that's the biggest difference from when I was coming up and now. When I was coming up, if you weren't on CBS, ABC, Fox, NBC, nobody knew you.
Right.
Like you didn't really have a shot unless you were in New York and you were doing Broadway. There were no streaming platforms. There was no social media. Now, if there's a kid in the middle of Kansas somewhere who wants to be an actor, they can literally get online and take an acting class with a teacher in Los Angeles.
Mhm.
You know, I would say if that's extremely important to like be theatrically trained as an actor. Um, sure, some people naturally have gifts. I think I'm one of those people, but those gifts can be fine tuned. So I think taking classes is crucial, for somebody who wants to do this. So I would give them that advice, like, hey, get in classes online. If you're in a small town that doesn't offer anything, get in classes online with a teacher in LA or New York or Atlanta, Chicago, and then just to bloom where you plant it. Do whatever it is you can in this industry to show your gifts now. You know, whether that's getting a playbook and putting on a play with you and your friends at the local theater, or creating a short film, or doing skits on Instagram, whatever it may be, just to get that acting bug activated.
That applies to life, like you said, not just theater. I mean, so many people again quit and give up, and I think more people would shock themselves if they were able to see something through, and then they'd probably be more proud of themselves, in the long run, for not quitting and persevering.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
That's great advice. Where can people find you out on social media?
J50 on everything. JAYFIFTY. J50 spelled out. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Although I'm using Facebook less and less, but Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, J50.
Well, that's easy enough. J50 on everything.
Yes, sir.
Jock, I appreciate you coming on today, taking time out of your busy schedule. It's been a real blast having you on. Very well rounded. Like I said, you're you're doing great things, and you dropped a lot of advice bombs today for a lot of people. So appreciate you.
Yes, sir, man. I appreciate you having me.